Wes Craven has racked up so many franchises. We all know him from Hills Have Eyes, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Scream, but he's also done a lot of one-off type movies, and one that kind of goes under the radar a lot is Shocker. So anyway, let's review Shocker. Shocker stars Peter Berg, Mitch Pileggi, and is directed by the master, Wes Craven. What's up, guys? It's a good day. I'm excited because I'm getting to do a patron review, and I love giving back to those that support what I do, and especially when they recommend movies like this, like Shocker. So this review will go out to Jeffrey Mattia. If you are of a certain tier, then you can request a review. Go to the Patreon page, check out all the perks, all that stuff. But anyway, looking forward to getting into this one. It's a Wes Craven movie, people. But anyway, first, let's get into a quick plot synopsis. This is a strange structure for a movie because for a good portion of it, our killer is alive. You know, I'd say the first third, maybe half of the movie, they're trying to capture this guy, Horace Pinker, who's a mean son of a bitch.
What are you waiting for, dickhead? You want to fry me? Then do it, you fucking insect!
And he's going around just killing people. It kind of reminded me of like Richard Ramirez. This is a guy that really doesn't give a shit at all. He just kills. He just wants to kill people. But he does have a very asshole type of personality, I guess like Ramirez did. But there's differences there for sure. I mean, he looks like a jock. That's literally what Horace Pinker looks like. He looks like a football player. And he also happens to be a cable TV repairman, which gives him some pizzazz, and that figures into the story. The opening of this movie, we see him doing his business, manipulating some of his equipment, I guess, to use as a weapon, which this opening is very similar to the opening of A Nightmare on Elm Street if you compare the two. And that's intentional. Wes Craven did that for a reason, and we will get into that. But our good guy here is high school student Jonathan. He's a football player, played by Peter Berg, whose career would go on to be a very successful director. But he's also a really good actor, and he holds his own in this movie. But he has these nightmares, these dreams about Horace Pinker. Again, another tie to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And he can see when these crimes are going to happen, and then he lets the police know, or he shows up to try to stop Pinker from killing. And his foster parent, his father, who goes by the name of Donovan, which is kind of weird in this movie. Like, you got a Donovan and a Jonathan, and the two names are just way too similar, and you can easily get them mixed up. But he's constantly trying to stop Jonathan, trying to help Jonathan to cope with all this. You know, why is this guy having dreams about him? And Jonathan's girlfriend, Allison, plays a pivotal role, which we'll get into that a little bit later too, because that definitely involves spoilers. This will be a spoiler review, but I figured for this portion, the synopsis, I don't want to spoil anything just in case you've made it this far. So from this point on, know that this is a spoiler review. This is a movie that came out in 1989, I think. And when I talk about older movies like that, I'm going to talk about spoilers. And I think the spoiler involving Allison is like essential to the movie. And I think it's what kind of lifts the movie a bit for me. But staying on the plot synopsis, I'm not done yet, okay? They capture Pinker. They actually electrocute him in the electric chair. You know, you know that by the cover of the freaking movie. And so the gimmick here is he comes back and he pretty much is like pure electricity. And he can body swap. And this movie really turns into a body swap movie for like the last half of the movie, just going from body to body to body. They have some fun with that. I don't really like the whole body swap thing, just because it's been done so many times. They did it in Jason Goes to Hell, which was after this movie, so credit to Shocker. But yeah, I think Horace Pinker is such an effective character that why put him in a body swap movie? And don't get me wrong, he's still in the movie in the last half. He pops up here and there, but I like the character. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, because I'm a metalhead, is the music in this movie. And I usually don't start out reviews talking about music, but the reason I remember Shocker is because of the soundtrack when it first came out. I mean, this is 89. This is when I'm freaking in high school, and I'm listening to bands like Motley Crue and Enough's Enough and, you know, Rat and all that stuff. And here comes this movie Shocker that has this awesome metal soundtrack. And a lot of you younger viewers might not remember that back then, that was kind of a rarity. You didn't see too many movies having like hair metal, glam metal, hard rock in the soundtrack. Sure, there were movies like Trick or Treat and stuff like that, but it wasn't something that you saw quite often. And so when Shocker came along and you had freaking Megadeth, No More Mr. Nice Guy, you know, the cover of Alice Cooper, that was awesome. But then, you know, I'm a big Kiss fan, right? I mean, really? Like, Dynasty people, okay? If you don't have this freaking on vinyl, damn it, get this on vinyl. It's amazing. Sure knows something. But I like when bands form this like super group, and this was this group called Dudes of Wrath. The lead singer was Paul Stanley with Desmond Child. Both of them were singing. But you have Rudy Sarzo from Ozzy, and I believe Rudy was also in Quiet Riot. And then you got Tommy Lee on freaking drums. So this was just like a match made in heaven. And the song, Shocker, is awesome. But then you got this band called Bonfire that does this song, Sword and Stone, which was written by Paul Stanley, I believe. And it was a Kiss song that was supposed to go on Crazy Nights. And you Shocker viewers, I've already lost you because I'm talking way too much about music, but I don't care, it's my review. Yeah! So if anything, if this movie was a huge stink pile, at least you'd have that great music, right? But no, it's not. It's Wes Craven. Wes Craven directed this. Talking a little bit about the backstory. Wes Craven, after he did the first Nightmare on Elm Street, he was so like unsatisfied with where the franchise was going and how they made Freddy kind of a joke, arguably, in the later movies, that he thought, you know what? I'm going to create another horror icon. I'm going to create this guy Horace Pinker, and it's similar to what Freddy does because of his connection with Jonathan. Because later in the movie, spoilers again, we find out that Jonathan was actually Horace's son. So I guess he was channeling his father's thoughts. But Wes, I think, intended for this to be a franchise. But do I think this could have been a franchise? I mean, does it hold up to the greats like the first Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street? Personally, I don't. I think it's a good movie, but it did bomb at the box office. It did really nothing. And so they pretty much just said, okay, I guess no franchise. As fun as it is and as good as it is, I don't think it's like A-level. And I hate that I've already jumped into the cons, okay? But anyway, pressing forward, a big plot point in this is the character Allison, who I really did like quite a bit. I think they spent a good amount of time building that relationship between Allison and Jonathan. So by the time Horace comes in and does the unthinkable and kills her, because we expect Allison to last throughout the whole movie. But no, Horace comes in and he violently kills her. And that was kind of, I guess, a shocker of the movie. And so then you have Jonathan, who is a basket case at this point because his girlfriend just was killed violently. And that gives us some interesting stuff emotionally to deal with for the rest of the movie. Now, I guess the good thing, that there is some fun to be had with the body swapping here and there. There's one point where he goes into the body of a little girl and, you know, you get your cheap joke, you know, the girl, she's cussing and everything because she's Horace Pinker. And I did have some fun with that portion. Really, the best thing I like about this movie, though, is the last part when Jonathan figures out how to fight Horace, and he basically puts him inside the television world. And there's so much fun to be had there because it just like goes from TV show to TV show to TV show, and a lot of creativity. You know, they end up going into like classic shows like Leave It to Beaver. They go into like rock music videos, which this movie was begging to do that with the soundtrack. So to me, that was like my favorite part of the movie. But it's interesting, like Horace, he can go into a recliner. He goes into Jonathan's recliner, which is kind of a silly scene. Also, quick mention of Jonathan's best friend, Rhino, played by Richard Brooks. I haven't seen Richard Brooks in anything outside of The Crow, City of Angels, so that was a nice surprise. Richard Brooks just has kind of a mystique about him, you know? And here, he's supposed to be like a high school student, but he still has that... like, he could be in a Dracula movie, okay? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Richard Brooks, he could be in a Dracula movie. Blackula. If they're making a new Blackula, Richard Brooks, okay? Now, Horace Pinker, I think, is a great villain. Again, comparing him to the greats, you know, like Michael, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, Chucky, all those guys, I don't think he quite stacks up. That's my personal opinion. I think he's effective for what he is, but I think because he comes across as almost like a drunk dad, or I guess like a washed up jock. He doesn't have that scary factor, you know, that mystery about him like a lot of other killers do. And so I guess that kind of takes away from him. But he's a fun character. Don't get me wrong, I have fun with the guy, but I'm never like scared of Horace Pinker. You know, I'm just like, what's he gonna do next? So overall, I guess in the end, I'm gonna give Shocker a, I really struggled with this because I'm trying to, do I wanna give it a high humdrum or a low purchase worthy? You know what? I think it's worth it for the soundtrack and there's some fun to be had in the movie, so I'll give it a low purchase worthy, okay? There you go, low purchase worthy. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on Shocker down in the comments. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays. We do Free For All Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Thank you, Jeffrey. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.